everyone, my name is Elsa. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. So today I want to do my April wrap-up. In April I had the weirdest reading month. Let me explain. Basically, the first half of the month, almost every book I read I hated or really disliked. And then the second half of the month happened and almost every book I picked up became a new favorite. So this month we have, half of the books are awful, half of the books are new favorites, and there's almost nothing in the middle. Like there are three, I think, in the middle, and that's why I'm going to do three sections. One for the books I DNF'd because I DNF'd a lot of books. So the DNF, the hated and didn't like. Then the second part where I will do the books that were good or just okay. And then last one for the new favorites. So we are going to start with the ones I didn't like. So a little disclaimer, if you like them, I'm so happy for you, but personally I didn't, and that's just how it is. So the first one was Odin's Child. It takes place in a fantasy world, the most bland and boring fantasy world you can imagine, so no baking there. And everyone has a tail. That's the only thing, specific about this world. Except the main character, who doesn't have one because she comes from another world, and basically the entire plot is her trying to hide that she's not like everyone else. It was awful, like so bad. There was no character work whatsoever. The characters were the most cliche characters you can imagine in a young adult fantasy, and you got them. There was absolutely no plot, and the book is super long. It's 600 pages and nothing happens, and it's full of inconsistencies, like almost nothing made sense. The pacing was awful as well, but the world building was still the worst thing in this book because, like I said, the most bland fantasy world you can imagine. But more than that, you had no explanation for anything at all. Like, there's supposed to be magic in this world, and there's a lot, like, it's important in the plot. It's not like something you can ignore. Like, it's really important because the main character can't use magic, and there's a trial, and she's supposed to show her powers, but she can't. And she's supposed to train to figure out if she can find a way to use magic and save herself. And by the end of the book, I still didn't know how the magic worked and what it did. The only thing I saw one character do with the magic is drop from a 3-story building and not break his legs. That's the only thing I know about the magic. So basically you can jump. Yeah, that's it. You're supposed to have this political, this very important council. I still don't know how it works. I still don't know why they're here. I still don't know how they got into power. They're supposed to have been a war before with demons. I don't know anything about these demons, don't know anything about the war. You don't know anything. And what's frustrating, it's not supposed to be a mystery. Like, every character in the book knows and understands. You just don't. And nobody takes 1 minute to explain it to you. So you're just... The next one is Kingdom of the Weekend. It's a young adult fantasy. The story is about Emilia, who's a young witch who lives in Sicily, and her twin sister is murdered, and she's trying to discover who killed her with the help of a sexy demon prince. I DNF'd it at 40%. I wasn't interested at all, and there were a lot of things that bothered me in the book, and so I didn't see any point in finishing it because I knew it wouldn't get better for me. So basically what my problems were, there were no character work. The romance was really cringy for me because first, her sister just died. So there was a lot of banter, that's supposed to be fun. It wasn't fun. Like, it was really forced. And it wasn't fun, and it was really, upsetting for me because her sister just died. Why are you laughing out loud with the sexy demon prince? Like, I don't know. It was really cringy. And it wasn't romantic at all. It was obviously, just sexual attraction because they didn't talk and didn't know anything about each other. But the plot is supposed to be, this mystery because you're trying to uncover who murdered her sister, and it's not a mystery. Like, not a mystery at all. Like, basically, the main character just walks in the street and the character will appear and is going to give her answers, and then she's going to go to the next character who's going to give her more answers. So there's no, investigation. So no, I wasn't into it. I must seem super bitter. I'm so sorry. When I don't like books, I tend to be mean to them and forget that some people love them, and if you love them really, I'm so happy for you. I just want people to read books they love. The next one was The Rage of Dragons. So it was our book club pick for the month. It's the Dragons Library book club. I will link it down below if you want to join us. In May we're reading Jade City, and I'm super excited for this one. So if you want to join us, please do. So in April it was The Rage of Dragons, and this one I was sure I would love because it's an adult fantasy with inspired by African culture with dragons. What's not to love in that? And I didn't like it. I DNF'd it at 40%. The story takes place in a very violent fantasy world, like I said, inspired by African culture. And you have basically this character, Tao, who goes on a quest for revenge. And to get revenge, he has to become very strong. And so he goes on training, and that's the story. And yeah, what really bothered me was the character work. Like, Tao had no personality. He wanted revenge. That's all you can say about his personality, and no, that's not enough for me to love a character and root for him. So I was totally disconnected from him, and I couldn't care less about what happened to him. And so I didn't care about the plot because I didn't want to see his story. And the plot in itself, it was really, I didn't like the pacing of it, because the problem is it's fight after fight after fight after fight, and it's very repetitive. There's nothing in between the fights almost. There wasn't even suspense about how the fight would end, and so now I was not interested at all in this book. And I love the world building though. The world building was really good, and I think it would have gotten even better if I had finished the book. Like, really great world building, but world building alone isn't enough for me. Then we have Cemetery Boys. So please don't come for me because I know many people loved it, and I didn't. Like, I DNF'd it at 40%. To me, it had good things going for it, but in the end, the execution was lacking. Let me explain. So, it's a young adult fantasy novel, urban fantasy, and so we follow Yadriel, who is a transgender boy, and he was born in a Latinx family who have powers and can see ghosts and heal. And basically, his cousin is murdered, and he wants to summon his ghost to prove, basically, to his family that he's a real boy. And he ends up summoning another ghost, the ghost of a classmate, and together they try to solve the murder of the cousin. The idea was great, and the representation was great. So the representation was great because we had a transgender boy, a lot of Latinx characters, a vegan character, a gay romance. All of that was amazing, and I was so there for it, except I didn't like the way it was done. So the character worked first. The characters had some personality, but they were still really bland and cliche. And the main character was really unlikable. Like, a lot of time, there's a lot of moments when he did things that are really questionable, in my opinions, and he said things that really, you know, bothered me. The romance, still, I wasn't interested, mainly because it was, you know, banter, really cringy banter to me. And as I didn't like any of the two love interests, I didn't care about their relationship, and I didn't think it was that romantic. So that's that. The plot, the pacing was really off for me, and it's a debut novel, so I get why, but really, even for a debut novel, the pacing was really off. Like, it's supposed to be a mystery, but you completely forget the mystery, and then you come back to it, and then you forget it. It's like super jarring, and there are a lot of scenes that are repeated over and over and over again. Like, there's a scene with the stairs. Like, they're supposed to hide the ghost in the bedroom, and so they have to climb the stairs and not be seen by anybody. The same scene happened 4 times, and I only read 40% of the book. That's not normal. That's not even an interesting thing the first time. You can't give it to me 4 times and not do anything else, you know, because that's time we could have put in something else. So there was a lot of that. And the plot in itself, I wasn't that interested in, and it was, you know, super predictable. Like, I checked the ending just to see, but at the end of chapter 2, I knew what happened, and that's a bit, you know, much. End of chapter 2, and I was right. And so yeah, so the mystery wasn't really there for me, and everything else was mostly the romance. And same, when romance happens right after somebody in your family died, I'm like, do you really want to do that now? Like, I don't know. And it was, you know, the characters were having so much fun. Like, somebody died hours before, and they were having so much fun, and I was like, that's why I didn't like the main character, because I thought he was really insensitive towards his cousin murder and other things, but mostly his cousin's murder. Like, he tells he's sad, but in the facts, you don't see him that sad and that interested in solving his murder. And I was like, yeah, don't you want to do that first before, you know, having the funny banter? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it bothered me. And lastly, I'm sorry, but there were really sexist things in this book. And for a good with good representation, it's, you know, like, maybe it was fixed by the end, I don't know, but when I stopped, it wasn't. Like the characters in the family, the men deal with ghosts and the women heal basically, and you can't do anything around it. And the main character has a problem because he wants to be considered as a man, as he should, and he's right to be angry. But you know, nobody questions the fact that you can only do one thing. You're a man, you do that. You're a woman, you do that. So first, non-binary characters, how do you do that? I don't know. And you know, second thing is like, I don't know, I don't like when, you know, genders are separated like that in such a way. And the women are always at home cooking, like all the time. And at one point, they're searching for the body of the murdered cousin, and the men all go out to search for it, and the women have to stay inside, like they have to. It's an order. Okay. And then the main character is super pissed because he's ordered to stay at home with the woman. And he's pissed, and he's right to be pissed because he's considered as a woman and he's not. So I agree why he's pissed, but not at one moment does he think that it's just a bit sexist that the women are ordered to stay in the house. Like, no, doesn't bother you at all. And it didn't bother anybody. And there were a lot of scenes like that. And I was like, isn't anybody gonna say or think anything about that? So yeah, bothered me. So yeah, and that Cemetery Boys, I'm sorry, I got a bit carried away, but yeah, that's it. Then we have Dragon Pearl. Oh, this one I wanted to love so much. It's a middle grade science fiction book, and it had really great potential and great ideas, but same, I thought the execution was a bit lacking. We follow Min, who's a young girl of around 12, I think she is, and she's a fox, so she's a shapeshifter that can take any form, organic or object, and she also can influence the mind, you know, like a bit with the Jedi Force. She can manipulate your mind a bit. And one day, someone tells her that her brother, who was in the army, deserted, and she doesn't buy that, and so she goes looking for him. And so that's the story. And like I said, there was so much potential. Like, I love there's a lot of Korean culture shown in this book, and it was so good. Like, I love the Korean culture, I love the powers of the main character, and when she used them, it was so good. So I love the scenes where she used her powers, and I really love the science fiction, you know, universe and how it was done. So all that I loved. But there are things I didn't like. First, we're gonna get there. Character work. She didn't have much of a personality. So yeah, she had great powers, but in her, you know, the character herself wasn't that great. And I didn't like her much. Like, she did one thing that really bothered me. I don't know why the author put that in there, but basically she goes looking for a brother. And you might think that she's looking for him because she wants to prove he's not a deserter, or because she's worried for him. No, the main reason she goes to look for him is because she made a bet with her cousin that her brother will be back within 6 months. And so basically, and she thinks about that over and over again, about the bet. She doesn't want to lose the bet. And you know, you learn things about the brother, like he might be in danger and some things, but no, that's the bet, the problem. Like, the author did also say she was a bit worried, but like, mostly it's the bet. And it really bothered me, like, you know, the bet isn't the reason you should be going on this quest. So first there was that. The plot. There were some very good scenes, but most of the time I thought the pacing was a bit off, and what happened had the potential to be great, but wasn't. Every time. Like, at one point she goes to, she infiltrates a ship where she pretends to be someone she's not, and she pretends to be a cadet in the army, and so she trains with the other cadets. And so I was so, that could have been so amazing. Basically, 90% of that section of the book, she was cleaning the toilets. And over again, you know, like, you have a great idea, and in the end, I hated the ending. It was really rushed, and yeah, there was a lot of inconsistencies. The way it was resolved was, are you sure you want to do that? Then we have Waiting for Spring. Same, this is a manga, a shoujo manga, and I wanted it. It's super famous, so I was sure I would love it, and I didn't. I DNF'd it at 50%, and same, it's supposed to be about this girl. She doesn't have many friends, and so she feels very lonely, and one day she becomes friends with these 4 guys that are on the basketball team. And I was so disappointed by it, because same, no character work. The main character was the most bland character I ever read in any manga. Like, she didn't have any friends. End of her personality. And the 4 guys, they were very cliche. Like, they had one character trait, and that's it. The friendship I didn't buy, and there was instead of, and I hate instead of, and so yeah, I wasn't into it at all, and so I DNF'd it. And lastly, we have the part about the dragon. If you've seen my vlog, you know that I read this book because it was recommended to me by my TBR book subscription, and it had the potential to be great, and it wasn't. You follow around a group of wannabe heroes that have to go kill a dragon, basically, and it's heavy on the humor. And I don't mind that. Most of my favorite books are super funny, but here it was really forced, and it wasn't that funny because it was the same jokes over and over and over again. It got old really fast. The characters were very cliche. I didn't like the relationships between them. It wasn't developed enough for me. The plot, it was non-existent. There was no plot, no world building, and no plot, because all the book was about the humor, and the humor itself, it has to be, you know, there to be only about the humor, and it wasn't, and everything else was really, you know, low and not that great. DNF'd it at 65%, I think. That's it for this very for the first part. I'm sorry I was so bitter and mean. I don't want to be like that, you know, but when I get very emotional about books, and when I don't like them, I tend to be mean, and that's it. I'm so sorry. If you like them, I'm so happy for you. Like I said, I want people to read books they love, and if you love them, go for it. I'm so happy for you. I just didn't, and that's why I was a bit bitter in this video because I wanted to love them. Most of them I was sure I would love, and the disappointment made me bitter. I'm sorry. The next video are about the books I liked or became crazy about. So my energy is going to go from here to here. Be prepared. Thank you for watching this video. Please tell me what you thought about these books if you read them. And yeah, that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching.